Welcome back. You're watching The Break, and you're at the tail end of this topic about the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. So the president on Sunday said, what we want to do is to work under the PPP program, and people must understand that public-private partnership has the potential to bring in private sector money, blended with public sector investment to bring a win-win situation. He gave an example. We are now celebrating the Nairobi Expressway. It now takes 10 minutes from the airport to Serena, according to the president. Do you know that the expressway was not built with government money? Question. It was built under the public-private partnership arrangement, and that is the model we are going to use to extend the superhighway from Nairobi to Nakuru to Malaba. That is what we are going to use to build many of our roads. That is what we want to do with our airport. We want to work with the private sector for them to do three things that are critical: build a new terminal, a new runway, and to make sure we refurbish what we have and remove the canvas. Ile hema iko hapo. It is shameful. End of quote. That's according to the president. And Senator, just before you carry on, I was citing that report by the Auditor General on external borrowing. Yes. And I just want to be clear. Commitment fees incurred between the financial year 2019-2020 to 2021-2022 was 5.35 billion shillings on undisbursed external loans. So these commitment fees were paid, but the loans were never disbursed. There were delays in commencement of projects, and there were delayed drawings and stalled projects. One more thing, zero public participation, meaning beneficiaries were unaware of some of those projects. Financiers approached ministries directly. They were done way before projects were conceptualized. That is the approaches. Financiers identified target projects based on strategic plans of different departments. There were gaps in comparison of credit terms. Only one creditor was identified for each loan. Other potential creditors were not considered. Creditors were identified ahead of time, as some creditors financed the feasibility studies, and there was a risk that contracted loans may not be the most cost-effective in the market because of the single sourcing of external loans. That was borrowing. This is public-private partnership. Many questions still emerging. So then what do we do, Senator?
I will tell His Excellency this way. The reason why, Your Excellency, we are asking you these questions, or we are raising them, is very simple. When the Nairobi Expressway was supposed to have been constructed and start working, the amount of money that was initially budgeted for it was 27 billion shillings. I was in the National Assembly. By the time it was finished, and such an agreement and deal was done, and of course it was done with President Uhuru Kenyatta and you, Mr. President, who were part of this team. Up to today, the Nairobi Expressway has not been finished. We don't know whether the finishing of the underground, where the columns have passed and everything, whether the money has been eaten. I believe the money was shared, and that's the end of the story. That's why the place looks pathetic the way it is. Number two, Your Excellency, you're talking about how you want to have an airport which is big and is doing everything. That is not what our questions are. That is not what we are challenging about. That's not what we are talking about. Can't we follow the law? Make sure that we are open how we discuss our transactions between, whether it's government to government, whether it's government to international bodies. The point we are making, Your Excellency, is very simple. We used to have that place was called what, Sam? Is it Greenview?
Greenfield.
That was the initial development of the project, which was started by President Kibaki. When you, President William Ruto, came in with President Uhuru, you cancelled that transaction. The Chinese who are doing that transaction have just been compensated to the tune of 4.6 billion shillings, which they have walked away with. There's a cancellation cost of about 9 billion, which you are going to pay to the same Chinese people again. You are now bringing Adani, which is coming in. Adani is supposed to be coming to build the airport and everything that we need, Sami. The problem we are asking you, Your Excellency, is very simple. How did Rwanda manage to raise $2 billion where they have been built a completely brand new airport? Then the Qatari government has allowed Rwanda now to own 40 aircraft, whereas you want to refurbish our airport at 270 billion.
Imagine.
270 billion, which is a loan, and this is money that you want to put into a project which the public is not aware, where the members of the National Assembly are not aware, where the Senate is not aware. And Mr. President, we are hearing so much about the corruption in your government over these deals. It is scaring all of us to death. So what we are saying, tell Musalia not to write a full-page article costing 1 million shillings today. Let Musalia come to the Senate, and we will summon him if he wants to come and tell us exactly what is happening about the parastatals. We don't know whether you people have sold KICC. We don't know whether you have sold the Sunset Hotel in Kisumu. We don't know whether you have sold Sirikwa Hotel. Why are you hiding these things from the Kenyan public? That is all. Right. We are not, Sami, we are not saying we don't need an airport.
Senator, I hear you.
We need an airport. We need we need all these things. The numbers have increased. Please do it within the law.
Okay.
Your Excellency, please.
So the Prime Cabinet Secretary says that it will seek, the government will seek clearance from the National Treasury, Attorney General, Cabinet, and where required, approval by Parliament. I don't know if that's part.
I can tell you today,
No, Senator,
let me finish.
I
finish with that question about our role in Parliament. I am asking my colleagues in Parliament with a lot of humility. These are the things that have made our country dysfunctional. This is the corruption that is making our country become like a banana republic, where things are arranged, we pass bad laws. How did we pass this law? At a private individual calls a government and says, you know what, yes, Sami, can we meet, we discuss how you can give me this business of 200 billion.
Senator Nyonka, you're quite clear. Mheshimiwa Adani.
It's not as simple as he puts it.
No.
It's as simple as that. It is
Let's hear.
What next? I think that the government must be taken to task on this. I agree that Parliament must summon the CS in charge. They must come with all the papers, because first of all, we need to know what prompted Adani to initiate this proposal, because people don't just initiate proposals gafla bin vu. It must be, there has to be some kind of prompt that was given, and why. And we also need to know what went wrong with all the other things, as in, this thing stinks. This is another SGR in the making. If you remember SGR, the Chinese conceptualized, they came up with the financing plan and everything, and it was shrouded in mystery. In fact, to date, despite court orders, we have never been given, the public has not been privy to the SGR agreement. It has turned out to be a money pit, allegedly a private-public private partnership. Public-private partnership implies
there's a case in London for 300 billion.
Sorry, Senator, she's making a
There's a case in London for SGR, 300 billion.
Let's allow.
Okay, so here, SGR. So what I'm saying is that these so-called public-private partnerships, where you are bringing in private entities to come and share, at least shoulder the expenses, turns out to be a back-breaking exercise, or rather bank-breaking exercise for the Kenyan people. The SGR, which was private-public partnership, PPP, it is a noose around the neck of Kenyans. Expressway, I remember the CS in charge clearly saying that Macharia, that once the expressway was built, the down roads would be fixed. We all drive on those roads that are full of potholes and total mess. I mean, even the messiness, you know, the arrangement, the way the city looks, it's such a mess. By the way, this city is a mess. What I'm saying is, as Kenyans, we really need to come to ourselves. You know, our leaders have brought us to a point of shame as a nation. Kenya, as a country, we don't even need external enemies. We are our own worst enemies, where we have leaders who plan and draw up contracts to raid and rob the public purse. This is going to be a burden to the Kenyan people. And there are also talks of, after they have done all this, they will have a permanent shareholding in this arrangement. What kind of public-private partnership is this? So, Sam, I mean, for me, I think that on this one, Kenyans must not let go. We cannot trust the government, unfortunately, because the government has proven itself not to be trustworthy.
Okay. Mheshimiwa Ndeto, then, what is the solution out of it?
Sam, I think the issue has never been what or even why. I think we've all agreed on the what. The airport needs some work to be done, and this is important. I think the issue we are dealing with here is the how. Okay? And I agree with my colleagues. We cannot afford to make the same mistakes that we made with the Greenfield terminal. It's just been said here, and clearly so, that the two contractors, Hui and China Aero, were demanding 17.6 billion just for the cancellation of a contract. And I think after mediation, we were left with a bill of about 8.9 billion, which is a lot of money in this country. So it is very, very important that we get this one right, okay? Very important. And let us do whatever it takes. And, from, I think, what the president pronounced himself on last night, there is a commitment to ensure that this is done in the right way. The president was on record saying he cannot just mismanage such an important national asset. I don't want to use the words he said, but we also what the president said. I think he was saying this is something I am very well seized of, and we are going to do it well, and we are going to do it to the satisfaction of all Kenyans. So I think the important thing, and someone asked you about the role of Parliament, is that obviously, as Parliament, we follow the law. If this will require some sort of parliamentary approval, it will come to us, and we are going to interrogate it. Okay. But what we are saying here is that let us really safeguard the how we go about this. I think this country, at this moment, we have a lot of moving parts, and it is important that we do not introduce any further, moving parts. So the people who are in charge of this, I plead with them. Yeah. Please, we all know the mood in the country right now. Yes. Let us do the right thing. Thank you.
Okay, all right. There's something, Senator, you said that initially the express was supposed to cost 27 billion shillings. Yes. I don't know where you got that figure, because I think I remember hearing of 67 billion shillings.
Don't worry, initially, in fact,
to 88 billion.
In fact, let me tell you there's something, my brother. Initially, the feasibility study said it was 19B. After the feasibility study and all the other works,
who did the feasibility study?
It was a Chinese company.
Who implemented the project?
It was President Uhuru.
No, the Chinese.
The Chinese.
The same company that did the
feasibility. The same company that did.
Okay.
All right, but you see what I'm saying, Sammy. In fact, the expressway, I thank Uhuru, even if you had made it 100 billion, it's okay. We can see.
You're talking about the costs.
No, the point, that is what I'm trying to make Kenyans understand. Okay. We are discussing why our projects are always inflated. The transacting of these projects is always convoluted.
What is the length of management of the expressway, if you know?
I don't even know. I've never seen the agreement. Those are the issues we are saying. Okay. Nobody knows the SGR agreement, the one of the highway, we don't. I'm not sure, but I remember once when I was
I think the SGR agreement was released. If I'm not wrong.
No.
How many Kenyans have been to court?
No, you remember when was the school year? You remember when?
Because I think one of the things that Kiba Murkomen had promised when he's minister, he promised to release the SGR report.
Oh my God.
And I think between me and Onyonka, let's go look. I was told it was circulated on WhatsApp. You can look around for it.
How much did it cost?
I do not have the figures, but I'm sure it's somewhere. But I'm sure it's somewhere. I don't have all the figures.
Honorable Wandeto, let me say this. Right now, there's a case in the International Court in London. The company that did the construction of the SGR, who at one time had ended up valuing it at about 560 billion, has gone to court to argue that the Kenyan government actually owes that Chinese company 360
Actually, it is actually available online. Yeah.
No, that is a story for
Kenya Standard Gauge Railway contract agreement.
Yep. Honorable,
export, import, Bank of China, Government of the Republic of Kenya.
Sorry, Senator, allow him to.
So it is all here. Export, import credit, Bank of China, with the Government of Kenya. I need to go through it, but this is actually available online. Let me see. Let me see if I can get some figures
that was
here.
The question.
The point.
Because I thought this thing was made. I thought this thing was made on. I mean, it was made available. So there should be.
I think we'll make progress because
we'll make. We can look for
initially. I remember a figure of about 327 billion for phase one. The second one was supposed to be 157 billion shillings, but those figures kept mutating at some point to an extent that you don't know.
But not only that, Sam. Not only that. remember, there was also the question of what strategic assets were used to secure this agreement. That was also the question.
Yes.
Because of the character and the manner in which some of these Chinese entities were undertaking these investments. They were securing them using certain strategic assets. So they give you a deal that seems good, but at the end of the day, you cannot meet your obligations. And when you can't meet your obligations, we know the case of Sri Lanka that ended up losing their port. So the question was,
have our port?
Is our port was the questions, and those questions to date have not been answered.
I think I can try to answer that very quickly to Daisy here. The standard gauge railway loan is one of the loans that we are paying. It's actually one of the many loans that we are struggling to keep up. Okay?
I think she's asking about the collateral.
Yes.
Well,
in the event that we
the collateral Sam only becomes
so what was it?
I do not have full view of what the collateral.
Thank you.
But I think
that is it. And that's what the question is.
But I think,
and you are a legislator
what would
and you are in
the
the
same
national
thing
what I would be
also.
worried about. What I would be worried about is our inability to pay the loan.
No,
and I think so far, as Kenya Kwanza government, we have done fairly well under very tough circumstances to continue meeting our loan obligations, including
Senator
the Eurobond loan, which was hanging like...
Can you just allow him to make
This
his
is
point?
the only administration in a period of 10 years that has squandered 10 trillion shillings of Kenyans people's money.
Listen,
What do you mean?
That's the debt we've gotten into from Uhuru's time and now.
You
We have gone through 10 trillion.
said this administration.
I said, but Ruto was part of Uhuru.
Okay.
Why are you being minded?
I think
he was part of
Ivanyonka allows
10
me
trillion
Sam, let
shillings
me come
between
in.
10
Just
trillion
come in.
shillings in 10 years.
You know, some my time has been stolen.
Isn't that abnormal?
Daisy and Onyonka will
I
let me
even said what I
finish
wanted
so
to
that
say.
I can also
Sorry,
give
Daisy.
no.
Daisy, please allow him to finish his point.
I think we have said, Sam, we took a loan. There is no denial about that. Okay? We cannot look around to see what assets were used. But I believe this is a sovereign debt like any other, owed by the Republic of Kenya. So far, we have continued meeting our debt obligations around SGR, and we did all other debt, including the one that was looking very risky, the Eurobond. We managed
at what cost?
we managed to pay for it, and I think that has helped to keep the country afloat. So,
What costs?
That's the question.
of course, based on some of the things that have been going on around the global markets, of course we may have paid slightly higher in terms of interest rates, but at least Sam, if you look at a lot of our neighbors here, we are all facing debt default, debt distress, okay? But as a country, somehow we have managed to stay afloat, and I think the important thing is for us to continue borrowing and spending responsibly, which is what I think should be the worry of every Kenyan.
Can I weigh in on that, Sam?
No, you can't, because you need to transition.
Okay.
I think you said enough about all
But
that.
that's a lousy last word. Let me just say that.
What's lousy about
It's not fair to the people of Kenya.
People are just eating money like
Yes, because you see, even when we make an investment like that, that kind of investment that takes so much money out of our economy, it has to be bringing money. SGR is a total money pit. It has never turned profitability to date.
Nothing.
And it continues to drain the public purse, take away money from essential services. And the question then arises in terms of what then was used to secure it. Because in the event that we are not able to pay, what then is the risk to the country? Because as it is already, you talk about the economic challenges that nations are facing. Yes, there's a real possibility of a debt default. So what happens if you default? What is it that we're losing? And does the government have the right, and did it have the right to engage in that kind of an engagement and put up certain strategic assets as collateral? Those are the questions that we need to answer.
Right.
And if we can't answer that, this Adani holdings is another problem, because what exactly is being used to secure this kind of arrangement? It could be the land that is on it. It could be other properties. If, as Senator Onyonka here is talking about Ketraco, which is the other parastatal that is tasked with the responsibility of, actually they're supposed to build transmission lines for the evacuation of power, and they've actually been failing despite the billions that they've been given. So what exactly is it that is being offered in exchange for these kind of deals? Those are the questions that must be answered.
Sheila, Daisy has just made a dangerous statement.
My sister.
Daisy has just made a dangerous statement that what happens is, it's like there's no big deal if we default. If we default, we have everything. If we default, we have everything to lose as a country.
You misconstrue my words. I did not say that.
So Daisy, I think we made the point. I think what she's talking about is, in the event you're not able to pay, what happens to whatever.
And that's what
country. If everything wrong happens after that, it will be downhill.
Right,
so and quickly so.
The money
no, I don't want to listen to that anymore. Let's listen to some conversation here in regards to the next cabinet. Rigathi Gachagua